What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of the Sports Courier. I have right here via Skype a very special guest. She is not only a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pro, she is also an actress who stars in the highly anticipated film Brick Mansions alongside Paul Walker and the RZA. She is Ayisha Issa. Ayisha, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy weekend to join us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Now, I got to ask you before we get to Brick Mansions and all the things you're doing, what came first for you, BJJ or acting?
BJJ came first. Absolutely, by a long shot.
And how'd you get involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, it's a long, drawn-out story, as you know, but basically the gist of it is that I started out with a Muay Thai class, a women's kickboxing class, actually. And then later on, my coach at the time, Richard Ho, at that time, he encouraged me to go and try the Muay Thai class, which is mostly guys. And then after that, there were all the guys that were grappling. It was no gi. And I was watching it a lot, and he just kind of encouraged me to try it. And so I did. And shortly after that, I ended up at BTT, which is where I am now, BTT Canada. And I train mostly gi, but a little bit of no gi also.
And when did you decide that you were good enough to not only enter competition, but actually win?
I don't know that I ever decided that I was good enough. I found that out after, I guess, winning. But I'm lucky because my coach has a very special attitude when it comes to that. Like the first time the Abu Dhabi trials came through Montreal, all the girls were in one category. So it was white belt to black belt, all weight classes combined. And I was like not intending on participating because I had not been training that long. And so when my coach found out, he kind of looked at me blankly and was just like, "What do you mean you're not competing? And what do you mean you're not ready?" And like, just kind of like, that's not an excuse. You're going to compete and that's it. So I was kind of scared to tell Fabio no. I just was like, okay. And so I went and I did it and I ended up doing really well. So I think I built up my confidence in my ability to not just do well, but also in being able to handle a loss, which is what I think stops a lot of people from competing. And so ever since now, that's kind of been an integral part of my training is competition.
And you just competed in the trials the other day. How'd that go, and how's your body holding up?
Well, I had been out of not just competition, but training for 2 years. And while I've always been kind of on and off, this was like the longest layoff that I've had. And I only trained a handful of days in the last couple years. I competed in 2012 at the trials. So I was a little bit nervous. I found myself more nervous than I had ever remembered being in the past. That having been said, I'm glad that I kind of got that first competition out of the way. I ended up placing second. I lost to a teammate of mine, Jacinthe. And I am very frustrated with myself, but like that's something that never changes. I think even when I win, I'm always like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. But it really put me in a very clear, or gave me a very clear perspective on what I need to work on game-wise. And it also kind of gave me a bit of a kick in the ass to step up my training a little bit more also.
Did you have a previous athletic background prior to BJJ?
I guess you could say so, yes. Jiu-Jitsu is the sport that I've done the longest and that I've really applied myself the most to. But over the years, I've pretty much tried everything, I think, at some point. I think that my favorite sports out of the ones that I've tried were gymnastics when I was younger. And I did competitive cheerleading not long before starting jiu-jitsu. But just was for a short time. It was for like a year and a half or something like that. But yeah, I've literally tried pretty much everything else, like rugby and basketball for a very short period of time. I'm not very good at it. But yeah, I like to try anything. So I keep my mind open.
That's good to hear. Now, you have a very, very interesting story as far as how you broke into acting. And it's a lot different from how you normally would, moving to LA or a major market and auditioning, getting an agent and all that. How did you break into acting?
I didn't. I've told this story a million times in French, by the way, so the people who've heard this before are going to be like, oh, here she goes again, but you asked, so I'm going to tell it again. I was working at a hotel. I had worked in the food and beverage and hospitality industry for years and ended up getting fired. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I realized that, I wasn't really a huge fan of the food and beverage industry or the hospitality industry, but anyways, long story short, I just kind of like threw myself into training until I figured everything out. And not too long after I did that, and I was like really into training at that time. I was training like 2-3 times a day. I was boxing, I was doing Muay Thai, a little bit of wrestling, Jiu-Jitsu, gi, no gi. Like I was just like really into it, and I was really happy also. But I got a phone call from this guy named Fahad, who is like a model scout here in Montreal, and he used to call me like fairly regularly, kind of check in and see if I was interested in like going back to modeling and all this. And I really wasn't, so I almost didn't respond to him at all. But for some reason, I guess I was curious, and he told me that there was this huge, big budget movie that was filming in Montreal, and that they needed, athletic women, and that, Mickey Rourke and all these people were going to be in it, Henry Cavill and blah, blah, blah. And for good reason, I think, I thought it was a load of crap because I was not a trained actress. I didn't have an agent or anything like that. And I also hadn't even like discussed, a desire to do this. And so I mean, I just finished competing the first year of the trials also. And I was eventually convinced to go and check out the audition. And I mean, again, I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was blessed enough to be guided by great people at the Kenyan casting office. And a couple months later, I got a phone call for a callback, and then I had just finished the Ontario Open. And then a couple of days after that, I ended up booking the job for Immortals. And on the set of Immortals, I met the stunt team and stunt coordinator, Jean Frenette, and a lot of the guys that I'm still very good friends with. A teammate of mine actually named Lee Villeneuve, who's the Abu Dhabi champ from last year, he's going back this year, is also a super well-known stunt guy in Montreal. And so when I went and did the World Championships, in between filming Immortals, by the time I'd gotten back, he'd already told the stunt team that I'd done well. And so Jean Frenette kind of scouted me for another project he was working on. And then eventually I got an agent, and it just kind of, I'm here now. Like, that's pretty much how it happened.
Yeah, so well from here. I was actually looking at your IMDb earlier, and I noticed that you have a film credit from 2006, and then after that it was 2010. So did you pursue acting prior to breaking in?
No, I was in the modeling world. So that credit that I have was really kind of just I'm surprised it came across as an acting credit at all when I saw it myself, because it was really, I was just, I was in the movie for literally 3 seconds. I was standing on a staircase, and it was more of an extra work than anything else, but they had called for model-looking women, and so that's why they casted us in it. But I had no, I didn't think that, I mean, you hear these stories every now and then, but these are like, they're not the way logically you would expect for someone to end up in the entertainment industry. Therefore, considering I didn't go to school for it, and I didn't have an agent, and I didn't have any of that done, I didn't think it was an option at all.
And I also see you've starred in a number of different TV series. Do you feel like that helped you at all, since in TV you typically have to do multiple episodes as opposed to doing one film for a short amount of time and then taking a few months off and doing another film?
I haven't done that much TV, actually. I think I've done two different shows. I'm on a show now, and I did a couple episodes in another show. It's very different. I don't know what it's like in the States, but here it's really different, the way things work. And I mean, I like both for different reasons, film and television. But I think that what the television experience kind of gave to me was just, I guess, more of an opportunity to develop a character, to work more deeply with the idea of creating a character over a longer period of time. And also to film a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have as much time to get a scene done. We don't have as much time as that, so you really have to kind of be more focused, I guess you can say.
You've done quite a bit of stunt work as well. Stunt work, definitely a lot tougher than people think, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I like the physical side of acting. I love the stunt acting of the movie business. At the beginning, I kind of thought that, like, I would have been really happy if I had ended up just doing stunts, because, again, I really didn't think that the acting thing was going to take off even after I had been casted, because, it just seemed like a really great once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I thought, maybe I'll be able to, get into the stunt thing, and I've been training with the guys over at the stunt stage, and kind of trying to develop that. And what I realized is that I wasn't really going to be casted as somebody who would be doubling anybody, because I'm a 6-foot black female. Like, who am I going to double, right? So that didn't really seem viable. What did seem like an option, however, was to do stunt acting, which means that I would be representing a character myself and then doing the stunt work. So that seemed to be like the vein that I was going into, and surely enough, it just seems like all of the roles that I've been casted for have been physical roles, which works out great for me because, again, like I said, one of my favorite parts about being in this business is that, going and working at the fight choreography and learning it, and challenging my body and doing all that fun stunty action stuff. But I have to say that, like, I have a lot of friends who are stunt guys and some stunt girls, and I'm really impressed with their lack of fear, for one thing. Like, the toughest, I guess you could say, or the most challenging stunt really that I've done is things that have to do with heights. And it's really not even considered that high in comparison to the stuff that some of these guys do. And I just remember being like, yeah, I can do that. It's like, it's like no problem. And then I got up there and I was just like, oh, this was such a bad idea. Like, freaked me out. And I'm glad I did it, but at the same time, it kind of made me understand the difference between like what I'm doing and what they do. Like, that's a really special skill. I have a lot of respect for it. Yeah.
Brick Mansions, it's your big film coming up this April 25th this year, starring alongside Paul Walker and the RZA. How did you get that role?
I auditioned for it. My agent called me and said that there was an audition for it. It was shortly after I was casted for the role that I have on the television show. And so I had done, I'd gotten to do a lot of the character work because the characters are both just terrible individuals, I guess you could say. So I got to develop that, get in touch with that side of myself and work that side out. And so all that was left to do was to kind of, like, give her her own style, give her her own story, give her her own life, and take it from there. So it turned out, it worked out really well. And from what I understand, it was kind of like people weren't really sure if it was going to work or not, but they decided to give me a chance. So I don't know how it turned out. I really hope it turned out well. But A, I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity, and B, I mean, no matter how it turns out, honestly, like, I had a good time, and I don't think there's anything that can happen from here on out that could change the experience that I had. So it's all good for me at this point.
That's great to hear. And you did, like I said before, you did star alongside RZA and Paul Walker. And how ironic your name in the movie is RZA. And I did some research on you, and I heard that the RZA actually took you under his wing. What was that like working with him?
It was great. I mean, like in most movies, I guess, especially action movies, there's team good guy and team bad guy, right? And so I was on RZA's team, which is obviously team bad guy. You guys can tell from the trailer. So I had the opportunity just to sit with him and to go over the characters, who these characters are, what their stories are, why they would behave the way they behave, what's behind their actions, all that stuff. So this is, again, for me, this whole process is still fairly new, so I'm still looking and exploring different ways of getting to know characters and stuff. And so him having done this kind of thing before, and having been involved in the writing and directing and the producing aspects of the industry, was able to kind of give me all these new tools that I could use in breaking down and like building up a character, it was just really cool to have that experience. So I'm really thankful for that, for sure. And he's also just a really smart and like really grounded guy who's got a very broad perspective on life in general, and just a good energy. Like, I think that everybody was just kind of happy to have him around, so it was cool.
And unfortunately, Paul Walker is no longer with us. You had the pleasure of starring with him in his last complete film. What a lot of people didn't know until after his death was that he was a guy that did a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Did you ever get a chance to roll with him?
No, I didn't get a chance to roll with him. And I mean, people assume, I think, a lot of the times that because you work on a movie with somebody, like you get to know them really well, and that's not really the case. I did speak to him, and I did see him a lot in passing. We did have a couple conversations, and I can't say that I knew him well, but I think that with anybody who meets somebody else who does jiu-jitsu, it's just kind of like, oh, it's like an automatic, oh, you must be like a relatively decent person. I think that that's the attitude a lot of people have towards jiu-jitsu and people who do jiu-jitsu. So when we kind of picked that up about each other, that became obviously a big topic of conversation for us. And so I remember specifically being over at the stunt stage with the stunt team and going over it. And he had said that he was bringing in one of his coaches to kind of work with the stunt team and the guys on the stunt team in order to bring some more jiu-jitsu into the choreographies and stuff like that. He kind of made it pretty clear that for him, he really liked it. He really liked jiu-jitsu that much, and he thought that it's a sport that people needed to be exposed to more. And he was really intending on doing his part, I guess you could say, to bring jiu-jitsu to the mainstream in the projects that he was working in. So I thought that was really cool. I was extremely excited about it. I have no idea how much jiu-jitsu made it into the movie or didn't, so I really can't say anything about that. But as somebody who does jiu-jitsu, who now sees it, I kind of have some kind of space, or developing a space, or might develop a space within the industry. And I also know how much jiu-jitsu affected my life and has changed things. It's kind of inspired me to try to, make sure that I keep jiu-jitsu as a relevant part of my life also, because it's important, and it's not something that, I guess you could say, like, life is not something that's guaranteed. So this is something that I really need to, I shouldn't be taking for granted, is the fact that I have jiu-jitsu and it's been so good to me. So kind of try to focus on that a little bit more.
Do you feel like jiu-jitsu right now is in a good place in comparison to, say, MMA and amateur wrestling?
I think that it's in a great place. I think that it's still very young, but in the time that I've been doing it, I've seen a significant change. I've seen a significant change in, first of all, the number of girls that do it. When I started, it was like a couple girls would do it like here and there, on and off, and then now, like here on my team alone, we have like at least 10 girls who are competitive and who do well in competition, not just in Montreal or in Canada, but internationally. And that's amazing. Like, we have girls of all levels. We have girls who are really committed to training and, take the sport seriously. And I think that the guys also who are doing this sport, at least at my school, again, like, I guess that's all I can really talk about, but, they take us seriously and they treat us with a lot of respect. And, that family aspect that you hear a lot about when talking about jiu-jitsu, the lifestyle aspect, I just think that it's in a great place. It's growing, and I think that people who do jiu-jitsu should continue to encourage their friends to come and try a class, and encourage their kids to perhaps have that as an option, as a extracurricular activity. And and obviously I'm biased, but I really do believe that jiu-jitsu is one of those things that can really change the world. Personally, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I really do feel that way. So I just hope that it just keeps going this way, and that it's recognized continuously for what it is. And as far as in comparison to MMA and amateur wrestling, jiu-jitsu kind of uses a lot of Olympic wrestling techniques, right? A lot of judo techniques also, and it is highlighted, or it's kind of allowed to meet a broader audience through MMA. So I think that they kind of work together, and I think they all kind of have their place, and they'll attract their own kind of crowd, but I think that they all kind of feed into each other also. So I think that, I know people who have, like me personally, I started doing a little bit of wrestling because of jiu-jitsu, not the other way around. I also started, training boxing kind of because I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I wanted to try the striking, and, I had started out with Muay Thai and kickboxing, and so wanted to try jiu-jitsu. It's, it's combat sports, and they all have that common element that I think are kind of great for society in general. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, that definitely answers it.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu is awesome. Acting is awesome, and acting is a little more glamorous and lucrative than MMA at times. But have you ever thought about stepping into the ring?
I started out thinking that's what I was gonna do. I think everybody who knows me knows like how gung-ho I was about it at one point. But I have to say that it's not fun getting hit in the face. There's also a big difference between getting hit in the face by somebody who you're sparring with for fun and somebody who's really trying to hurt you. And I think that professionals, people who get hit in the face for a living make it look a lot easier than it really is. That having been said, I kind of pulled away from it, but I really do like, training boxing, for example. And I really do like kind of putting my body through new challenges and things like that. So I think that if the opportunity were to present itself, if I had the time to train for it, if I was presented with, a good challenge, I think it would be difficult for me to say no. And it's one of those things that are kind of like on my bucket list, but written in pencil, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't mind checking it off, but I wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't check it off my list of things to do,
Of course, and Ronda Rousey has really put women's MMA on the map on another level. I mean, you could argue Gina Carano, Chris Cyborg did that a few years ago as well.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion on Ronda Rousey, and do you think she's going to stay in MMA? Because right now I'm seeing she's getting cast in Hunger Games, Entourage, and a number of different films.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because when I do my research, when I read into anything that has to do with women involved in combat sports, there's always a lot of like tension, and everyone has these super strong opinions. This person's good for the sport, and that person's not good for the sport, and this and that, and blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, I think that as long as women are doing it, as long as women are kind of like stepping up and being like, I want to do this, I want to try this, and so despite what all of you think of me for feeling this way, I'm going to go forth and do it. I don't really care how they go about it. You know what I mean? I think that everybody has their pros and their cons, and nobody's going to be liked or disliked by everybody. And so the more variety there are of women out there doing this kind of thing, the better it is for everyone. From what I understand, anyway, she's like a long, combat sports are kind of in her blood, right? Like she's a judoka first, if I'm not mistaken. So she's probably gonna keep going with this. But I think that it also is going to depend on how. If the rest of the movement, I guess you could say, of women in MMA, is going to be able to keep up with her. Like, if she keeps, wiping everybody out as quickly as she does, and she's not presented with enough challenge, then like with anything else or anybody else in life, I think she might get a little bit bored with it, and she's going to start looking for something else that she finds more challenging, which is fair. You can't blame her for that. So I think that there are definitely a lot of women out there who will present a great challenge for her. And I just think that if she's allowed to accept that challenge, and if she wants to accept that challenge, then I think she can go for quite some time in the sport. And I think that the sport can also build into something a lot bigger than it is now as well.
Now, I understand you also do a lot of work in the community and pay it forward.
Yes, yeah. That's like one of the greatest parts, I think, of where I am now in life, is that I'm able to do that. Like I said, jiu-jitsu's been a great, it's done so much for me in my life in general, and it's just kind of gotten me from a place that really wasn't all that great at all, actually, but to a place where I'm really happy with myself, I'm comfortable with myself, I like myself a lot more, and but I don't forget what it was like when I was a teenager and how I felt. And so I kind of am going back to an organization and working with youth in particular, teens, but kids of all ages, and just kind of trying to pass on the message of lessons that I've learned over the years. And so hopefully, I mean, we all know how it works, right? You kind of have to live through it yourself, but hopefully, they'll take something from my experience, or me sharing my experience with them, or what I've learned with them, and they I'm hoping anyways that it's going to make things a little bit easier for them. But it's definitely, like I said, it's an ongoing project. It's one of those things that has no limit as to how far I can take it, really, right? And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's great. I'm glad I've been asked to speak at a bunch of schools and events and do all these things, and that for me is like a real sign that I'm achieving the success in my life that I had always hoped of achieving, and was kind of worried of not being able to achieve at some point. So that's for me is like the big proof that things are going well.
Let's assume that GSP has actually completely retired and is serious about it and never comes back to fight again. Do you think long term that's going to hurt the Canadian combat sports scene?
No, not at all. Like I don't think you've been here before, but that element of combat sport, at least in Montreal, and I'm pretty sure across the rest of Canada, I can only speak for what I know here. I think that it's done. Like people here train something. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Everybody here trains something. Everybody talks about what they train. Everybody, if they don't train, they know someone who trains. Like it's like a big thing here. You know, we have a very deep concentration of talent, just, you know, in the people that I know alone. So I think that, again, like, that stuff has been made, it's been done, and I don't think that it's a fad. I think that combat sports in general is something that society kind of needs. Like, you know, in life in general, when you look at it, people are always talking about, you know, how, you know, anger and aggression and all these, like, you know, negative emotions are kind of like so terrible that people aren't allowed to have them. They're definitely not supposed to accept them. If they feel them, they have to, like, find a way to get rid of them. And it's kind of like, that's like one of the things that make us most human. You know what I mean? That's what sets us aside, is that aggressive kind of side of us. And if we don't have a channel for that that's safe and controlled, then it's going to come out in other ways. It's going to come out in self-destructive ways. It's going to come out in, you know, socially or antisocial ways. It's, you know, people go postal, like, for a reason. That's in my opinion anyway, why that happens so often. And so I think that if we start integrating safe and controlled environments and opportunities for people to channel this kind of energy and kind of transform and create it and allow it to create something positive, then it's going to be a lot easier to manage for everyone. So I don't think that combat sports is going anywhere, not in Montreal, not in Canada, not in the world. I think that it's something that's going to, or that has the potential anyways, of making significant positive change in the way society treats each other and itself.
Well, Brick Mansions is in theaters April 25th. Before we let you go, any other upcoming films and events you're going to be involved with?
Any upcoming films and events that I'm going to be involved with? Not that I know of. I'm working on a project for Ubisoft soon, which is cool. I've never got to do that before, but it's a company that is well known in Montreal and well respected. So I'm glad to have that opportunity. It's not like a huge deal or anything, but it's just going to be a great experience. I start filming for the television show that I'm on again as of May. And I'm just hoping, or I'm waiting and hoping to see what life brings for me. You know, this year I'm really hoping to do more competition than I've done in general. Like I said, I've really made a point of integrating jiu-jitsu and acting, like putting them together instead of kind of having them fight for space. Trying to find a way to balance them out. That's like my big project for 2014. The last couple of years, I've really kind of been like acting focused, and without that balance of jiu-jitsu and the people in jiu-jitsu and how I feel when I'm gonna have jiu-jitsu in my life, I need that. Like it needs to be integrated. So I just need to kind of, you know, be more diligent about doing that, and that's like my big focus for 2014.
Awesome. And fans, you can follow her online at Ayisha_Issa, as well as visit her website, AyishaIssa.com. Ayisha, thank you so much for the time. It's great to see combat sports be represented in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and I really hope that we get to see more of that. I hope that, you know, other actors that train, and I'm finding out that a lot more do, kind of, you know, talk to their stunt people and talk to the people that they know about showing it a little bit more in a good light, obviously, because I think it's a great thing.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks so much.